So anyway, thanks a lot for having me. I felt like, first of all, because I'm looking at the camera here, and my brother's not here, and he's home with his daughter right now, beautiful daughter, that I wanted to give the obligatory brother joke right off the bat. He's not here. I don't actually have an obligatory brother joke because they're all too derogatory for this audience, and so I just thought I'd tell Brian to the camera that I saved you tonight, and because I'm sure he'll watch this right when we get done with this. So anyway, and I was talking to Sri right when we got here, and just wanted to say, to the students here that, and we were talking about this as a group earlier today. I have some of my team here too, Chris Cook and Phil Santer, if you guys want to wave your hands. They're all part of our team at the Capital Markets Group at MEDC. And I don't have any embarrassing jokes for you. Well, I do have embarrassing jokes for you guys, but I'm not going to share those here either. But, I was talking to Sri. Sorry, Dad, am I going overboard now? No, just kidding. I see you laugh. So I was talking to Sri and just wanted to mention that we were talking about this in our group. There's not a lot of, in MBA programs, enough coursework really on the government or interaction with the private sector. So I think it's great that you guys have an opportunity to do this. I don't know if I'm the best representative of it. I know Mr. Hilligans is, which I'll introduce in a second, to give you more detail on kind of how it works. So I thought I'd just give you a real quick intro on our organization here. I don't know if you guys are familiar. We're basically, I think the primary way to look at us now is the marketing organization for the state of Michigan. What we're really trying to do is attract businesses from out of state and keep businesses here that are already here. And I think the Marketing Pure Michigan campaign, you saw the videos on the way in, is really our attempt as a state to make that happen and show that we're a good place to do business. And I've gone to different states and heard that from a lot of different economic development people in other states, and know that it's working and helping drive tourism and drive some businesses to locate here. So that's kind of one end of what we do. The other end is kind of what I'm on, which is actually running programs and services in the state that are designed to also help attract businesses and grow businesses in the state. We're especially focused now kind of on growing the in-state businesses, which you've probably heard the buzzword of economic gardening, but it really is, I think, a meaningful concept. We probably focused too long on trying to hunt for companies outside of the state rather than helping to support the companies that are in state. So I think now we've got the right focus. I think we've got the right leadership in the state. Governor Snyder also, I think, has background in all three of these sectors. Nonprofit, he ran Gateway Computers, he ran a venture capital firm, and he had his own startup business. So he's got a lot of background and knows what he's doing. Our new CEO here, Mike Finney, is also great. He's run a few economic development organizations, including the one in Ann Arbor, which is hugely successful. He was also an entrepreneur for about 10 years, so he really has the background to kind of know what he's doing on a day-to-day basis and how it's having a real impact. So that was kind of a digression, but what I thought I'd do is just give you a little bit about my group then, and kind of the philosophy that we operate under, and hopefully that gives you some insight on a day-to-day level how we think as public, private professionals. I work in what's called the Capital Markets Group here at MEDC, and our mission is really to try and help increase the availability of capital in the state. And we do that by working not necessarily with the businesses like most of our organization does, but by working with the sources of capital in the state. So we work with banks and credit unions and venture capital firms and angel investors. Some of those you know well, angel investors, and some others you might not know so well. And what we're really trying to do is design programs and run programs that can help those sources of capital do more of what we want them to do, which is invest in and lend to companies in Michigan, because capital, really, cash is king when it comes to running business. You guys know that, and if they don't have the capital they need, they really can't succeed and grow. And so that's really what our group is focused on. We're not sector specific. We work with all different kinds of companies. We work with companies across the capital continuum, so very early stage companies, two guys in a garage, all the way to bigger, mature companies. And so we try to have programs available for all of those. And so then I thought I'd just give you a little insight. We have kind of, and Chris and Phil are probably going to laugh because they've heard this a million times, but kind of the three guiding principles that we operate on our group, and I thought that might kind of give you some sense of how we look at our job on a day-to-day. The first is that when we go to create programs and work with those private sector sources of capital, what we're really trying to do is figure out where there's a market inefficiency. So we don't want to, compete with the market. We think the private sector ultimately operates pretty efficiently on its own, but we think there are some cases where that's not the case. And so we try to identify what that inefficiency is and figure out if we have, potential to fix it. The second thing we do is, because we're the public sector, the way we fix problems in the public sector is to deploy public dollars. We try to do that as responsibly as we can, but what we try to do in our group is design programs that target those sources of capital in a strategic way and be able to deploy capital in the smallest amount possible to affect the largest change that we can, i.e. making more loans and investments to those companies. And we also try to structure that deployment of capital as an investment when possible. So we can actually invest our money in a way that we'll get returns, get our return of capital eventually, and then be able to redeploy that capital to new businesses going forward. So we really want to create programs where we can recycle that money, and you've probably seen some of the federal initiatives. The stimulus was designed that way, and I think the public sector is smartly moving in that direction. So that's this. So the first is identifying a market inefficiency. The second is being able to target public dollars at the problem in order to fix it. The third is that we really want to make sure that the private sector is making the decisions. There's private sector professionals that work at banks and venture capital firms. This is what they do on a daily basis. We're not necessarily in a position as public sector officials to operate those programs as best as they can. So we want to make sure we design the program so that they're ultimately making those decisions. And then they also have interests that are perfectly aligned with ours. And we do that by the way that we structure the programs in such a way that we ensure that the lenders and investors have our interests in mind. So I'll give you kind of an example of what that is. And I was talking to somebody earlier about one of our programs called the Collateral Support Program that I think gives a really good, highlights kind of what we mean by this philosophy. So in the last 2 to 3 years, I think everybody knows there's been a economic downturn. I don't know if anybody's noticed. And one of the repercussions of that was the property, plant, and equipment values assets within the state suddenly plummeted, sometimes up to 80%. In some cases, we saw factories, for auto suppliers, for example, in Detroit, where you suddenly couldn't, give away a factory. That's just how low the asset values had gone. The problem there, obviously, is that companies rely on those assets as collateral to go and get bank loans. If suddenly you don't have the collateral in place to do that, you could be a very successful business on every other metric. You could have great cash flow, be able to pay back the loan, you could be a profitable company, but ultimately the bank has to look at, and they have regulatory pressure to look at the collateral of the business, and if it's not a fully collateralized loan, then you suddenly aren't eligible for a loan. So that was really the number one, the market's inefficiency that we saw. And we really worked diligently with the Michigan Bankers Association, with all the bankers that we knew, in trying to help identify that problem and craft a solution to it. So we came up with the Collateral Support Program, where essentially what we can do is deposit cash collateral into the lender bank. We can do up to 49% of a loan, so the lender always has a majority stake in the loan, which means that they always carry the most risk. This kind of harkens back to their interests being aligned with ours. We know they're going to do good deals because they always have a majority interest. And we structure it as an investment. So we actually put the money in an account at the bank. We earn interest, money market rates usually, which are pretty low right now, but at least we're getting a return. And then the company uses that account sitting at the bank to offset their gap in collateral, which allows them to get the loan that they need. And so as the loan is paid back, we are then paid back our money plus interest. We also charge a fee for borrowers to use that program. And so essentially it fixes the problem for the borrowers that are eligible to get those loans. The borrowers that are eligible to get those loans are really the ones that are going to have the best chance for long-term success. The banks are the ones that make those decisions. Again, we won't actually do a deal unless the bank says they'll do the deal. And so, you know, our interests, again, are perfectly aligned with the bank. We don't want any business to fail, obviously, but we have to be good fiduciaries for the taxpayer dollars, because that's ultimately what we're dealing with, and we want to make sure that we're responsible with that money. So that, you know, that kind of in a nutshell, I know it's pretty quick, but I want to make sure I leave enough time for Paul. That kind of gives you a lot of information, but you know, some sense, I think, of what we do in our job and how we work with the private sector. Maybe just give you a few numbers and let you know, actually, as a result of this program, we were able to attract federal money. We now have a new pot of federal money, $80 million that we're working with to deploy in the state. We kind of went through our state dollars in 2009 and 2010. Now we have $80 million that we're working to deploy to run that program. Since 2009, I think we've done about 50 deals in that program with the banks. We've deployed about $30 million state dollars. We haven't even gotten into the federal pot of money yet. And we've leveraged, which is really the key, we've leveraged about $200 million in bank loans. So we were able to deploy a small amount of public dollars, at least relatively, to the amount of bank loans that are going out. We've actually made money on this program. It's a negative cost per job. We've made, I think, $500,000 in fees and interest on the program, and we've had probably 20% of our original capital that was deployed already returned to our accounts. So now we're kind of on a cycle, and we just want to keep building this account and be able to do this for years to come, as long as it's an effective program and as long as the market inefficiency is around. So that's kind of all I had. I wanted to just wrap it up and then introduce Paul, but I just wanted to say kind of a call to arms to the students here, especially that, you know, I know you're in your MBA program right now. We hope that you'll stay in Michigan. I know there's good jobs elsewhere, but, you know, there's great jobs. I see it every day. There's a lot of opportunity here, you know, in the financial sector, in this public-private partnership. There's a lot of good opportunities. Call me, talk to me. I love talking about this stuff, so I'd be happy to do that. And then if you want to start your own business, we'd really love that, because that's what really generates growth in the economy. We're working in that sector as well, and I think that's a great opportunity right now as well.